Lily had been driving for hours, the mist outside growing thicker with each mile. She was lost in the fog when her GPS led her to a small town, Hollow's End. The name felt strange, but the road was empty, and she had nowhere else to go. Her tired eyes caught sight of an old bed and breakfast at the end of the street. She parked and approached the front door, a sense of dread creeping over her. Inside, an elderly man greeted her with a shaky smile, his hands trembling as he handed her a brass key. "Room 7, he muttered, his voice barely audible. She nodded, too exhausted to question him, and made her way down the narrow hallway. The floor creaked under her feet, the walls lined with old portraits whose eyes seemed to follow her. As she reached her room, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. The room was small and dusty. A tall mirror across from the bed caught her attention. She noticed a slight movement outside the window, but when she looked again, it was gone. Lily shook it off, but a faint whisper broke the silence. "Leave now." Her heart skipped a beat. The voice wasn't from inside the room, but it felt like it came from the walls themselves. She glanced toward the door, but the hallway was empty. Maybe she was just overtired. But then, the whisper came again, louder this time. "Leave now, or they will come for you." A cold shiver ran down her spine. Lily turned to the mirror, and to her horror, it rippled, as if disturbed by an unseen force. As she stepped closer, the reflection morphed, showing not just her face, but a shadowy figure behind her. She whipped around, but the room was empty. No one was there. Panic surged within her. She backed away from the mirror, her breath quickening. Suddenly, the lights flickered and then went out. The door slammed shut with a force that rattled the walls. Lily rushed to the door, but it was locked. She tried her phone, dead. The walls seemed to close in on her. The scratching noises started. Slow, deliberate, like claws dragging across the wood. Her pulse raced. She screamed for help, but no one answered. The noises grew louder. From the darkness, a deep voice whispered, "You shouldn't have come. They're coming for you now." The door creaked open, and there, standing in the doorway, was Mr. Finch. His eyes were vacant, his expression lifeless. Behind him, the hallway was shrouded in darkness, but Lily could hear the sound of slow, deliberate footsteps. "Join us, Lily," Mr. Finch whispered, his voice a hollow echo. Lily's body froze. The figures that now emerged from the hallway were no longer human. Their bodies were twisted, limbs stretching unnaturally, their eyes glowing a sickly pale. They moved with an inhuman grace, surrounding her. She could feel their cold hands brushing against her skin. She ran toward the window, desperate to escape, but the mist outside had thickened to the point where she couldn't see a thing. There was no way out. The creatures were closing in. The whispers grew louder. "You are one of us now." Lily tried to move, but her limbs were frozen, as if the air itself was holding her in place. The figures reached out, pulling her into the shadows. She gasped, but no sound escaped her lips. The world around her grew dark as the whispers ceased, and Lily vanished into the night.